Jello Beats, holla at me.
Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today I am bringing you another video on peaking. I know that I've done a video on Peak Week before, sort of explaining the ins and outs and how I choose to peak my athletes. But one of my clients asked this morning, as today's a refeed, he asked, what am I doing to sort of test and trial my peak weeks and at least know the protocol that I'm potentially going to use coming into my first show in 2 weeks' time. So, something that I like to do, I know that you guys probably know already, is I'm quite a big advocate of single day refeeds. Now, the benefit of a single day refeed is obviously a huge influx of glycogen levels. For muscle fullness, we need glycogen, we need carbohydrates, and we need to look that way inclined on stage. We need to bring a full whilst conditioned look. And to know how that's going to work, we probably should trial this. The reason why we should trial this is because if we don't know how we react to a certain carbohydrate intake, we will never find out until the day of the stage. And do you think that's optimal? Probably not. Let's take an analogy. So we have a football match. Premier League, really important. And Nike contacts us and they say, we've got this new shoe, this new football shoe. Like, we really want you to wear it for the game. And it's very important that you wear it. But we can only give it to you the night before you go and do the game, the night before you play. You'd question Nike, you'd be like, why? Why are you giving me something that I've never put on my foot the day before I go and play a really important game? Like, how do you expect me to perform well in a shoe that I've never worn before? So Nike would say, oh yeah, thinking about that actually makes a lot of sense. Let's produce the shoe a bit early, let's try it out, and let's see if you like playing football in the shoe. Same goes for peaking. Let's figure out what potentially might work. Now, what you've got to take into account, very much like the football game, the pitch might be wet. You might not have played in the rain before in this shoe. It might be really slippery. The pitch might be really dry, and the shoe might not have as much cushioning on a slightly wetter pitch. So the individual variants that are going on in a peak week that are cycling in and out, like water, like sodium, potassium, carbohydrates, your fatigue levels from training, and also what training you're going through during the week. Obviously at the moment I'm not doing peak week style training. It will be different. My accumulative fatigue is different comparative to where it will be in peak week. What you're doing with cardio will be different, and guys, sleep potentially will be different. If any of you have done a show before, you'll know sleeping the night before your show is crazy difficult. And I'm sorry in brief advancement if I'm slurring any words. It's kind of because I don't know whether there's anything, this is a complete tangent, but I don't know if there's any research done on like low dietary fat intake and sort of slurring your words, but it's something that I've noticed that a lot of people do when they sort of get a little bit deeper into contest prep, is like finding it hard to actually get out words. So yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, so there are a lot of variables that are circulating around a peak week and around peaking a physique, making it look the best possible. So like I said, sleep. Sleep is one that really will affect things. Now, what we want to do is we want to basically get yourself in a position where your physique looks a certain way. So at the moment, I'm pretty happy with how this week has gone. I hit 154 pounds this morning, which is crazy. I dropped 1.2 overnight. And already this week, before that, I dropped a pound. So I knew that at this point in time, I was pretty depleted. Took some pictures in the gym last night. Might put one up behind the footage. Pretty depleted, pretty shredded, ready for some carbohydrates to come in. That's where you want your physique, just before you peak. Because my view is that you get to a point where you're in a kind of depleted state, glycogen-wise, and then you fill it back up like a balloon. And it's awesome. It looks wicked. It's like a super compensatory effect. So what I have done today is I've essentially used foods that I imagine that I will eat on a loading day, the day prior to the show, which for me, I'm a huge fan of backloading. It's pretty hard to fuck up a backload unless you go really hard, because you're already in a depleted state and you've only got one day of loading. For some people, I might use a couple of days of loading. It depends how big the individual is, how depleted they are, and what stage they are in prep, whether they're fully diced or like half diced. So I will most likely be doing a single day refeed. And what I've done to manage the variables is I've eaten foods that I think will sit with me digestion wise. I think this morning the only thing that I might change is on the show or on the loading day before the show, I might use slightly less water in my oats. But oats tend to sit pretty well with me as long as I have them sort of maybe just in the morning and then maybe just in the pre-bed meal also. My fibre won't be too high because my vegetable intake is coming down. With food coming in, glycogen coming in, high carbohydrates, we want to keep food volume lower. So things like veg, they go down. We do keep some in for digestion, but not as many as we would see in a normal day of eating for sure. No massive salads today. Just to make sure that we stimulate the carbohydrates as well as possible and also just avoid any bloating. So we're doing that. And what I've done this morning is upon wake, I let Dougie out. I took him to go to the toilet, and then I came in here after I'd weighed myself and I set on my camera and I did some posing. Tomorrow, I'll do the exact same. And I'll compare. I'll get a bit OCD with it, and I'll look for any areas that potentially have spilled. Any areas that have overfilled with glycogen. I'll expect that there might be some. I might look a little bit sort of fuller in areas, and that might fade condition. But if I have, I know that I can sort of pull back, and I'll assess my physique later on into the day as I've had sort of some hydration. I've got some water and started flushing through the nutrients. But this is what it takes to peak well. It takes the analysis process, and it takes like doing some refeeds and having a look at your physique upon those refeeds. And this is the prevalence of being at least halfway shredded, pretty soon. Because then you can start playing about with these things. You can have, like today, I'm going to have between 700 and 800 grams of carbohydrates. I'm going to see how I react to that. Last time I had 700, woke up pretty good, like no spill. Throughout the day, just looked better. Digestion-wise, horrendous last time. I saved like 2,000 calories pre-bed because I wanted to have a huge post-workout meal. Awful idea. I wouldn't ever do that on a loading day, like pre-show. Awful idea. So today I've taken a more structured approach, split up my meals across the course of the day, focused very heavily on digestion. I'm having like Besa fillet as my protein source. Protein's very low. It's like 1 gram per pound, which is hard to do, especially when you try and have things like bagels, which have 20 grams of protein in if you have 2 bagels. So it's things like this that do get in the way a little bit, but you don't really need to worry about protein when you are loading carbohydrates because the primary focus is carbohydrates. Protein's only going to sort of sit in your stomach, and if you're in an overfed state anyway, so you don't really realistically need to worry about protein. So base fillet, thinning the skin. In reality, it's just very easy to digest that protein source, so that's why I use that. And then carbohydrate sources, going to be oats, basmati rice, banana for a bit of potassium, a couple of bananas today, which isn't very high potassium, but it's decent enough. No white potato because that stuff just doesn't sit well in my stomach. I know that, and I've known that from testing it. So lots of basmati rice, like I said, Besa fillet, and then bagels, caramel rice cakes. I'm having a whole sleeve of caramel rice cakes. Jam, like a normal strawberry jam. And I think that's about it in terms of my carb sources. So very simple, very structured, and then we'll assess tomorrow. So guys, this has been a brief video. Hope you've enjoyed it, and not going to make it any longer than 10 minutes. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. Any questions on my peaking methods and how I'm using today, refeed day as a trial, just to see how things react, let me know. I do keep water and sodium the same. If in fact I probably have a little bit more sodium, a little bit more water, as the carbohydrates need the mechanism to get them in to the muscle and create a full physique. Cheers, guys, and I will see you tomorrow.